Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Any Given Day podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about some draft declarations, some more transfer portal news, some bowl reviews, as well as our national championship preview and some other exciting things. So sit back, relax, and get ready for another exciting episode of the Any Given Day podcast. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Zach, that's Hunter, and we're going to get started and jump right into this with some roster movements. We're going to start off with some draft declarations. Yeah, Ladd McConkey is declared for the NFL draft. Brock Bowers. That's also a big one.
Yeah, actually a little fact about him real quick. This coming from the boy Dr. J. Jonathan Williams on Twitter. He finished his college career with 2,731 total career yards. He was 170 yards short of breaking Dennis Pitta's record for most career yardage by a tight end in college football history. The notable thing about that is how many games did Bowers miss this year with injury?
3,
4, right?
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, he would have broken it, right? But the crazier thing is Bowers basically racked up this amount in 3 years. That took Pitta 4 or 5 years, I think.
Nice.
It's insane to think about, really, but just shows how much of an athlete and how much of a freak he is. He's first round talent.
Well, yeah, he's gonna be good in the NFL.
Oh, so good.
The next one's kind of a surprise, but maybe not. Cam Ward has declared for the NFL draft. He entered the transfer portal, obviously out of Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there wasn't really anything that interested him in the portal, and he just said, whatever, there's nothing else I can really prove in college with the options he had, so he's off to the NFL. I think he's probably a late day 2, maybe day 3 pick.
I'd say at this point, day 3. Probably late day 3.
He's got all the upside in the world. Yeah, I mean, he's got all the upside in the world. His floor right now just...
I don't agree with it.
He's got a high ceiling. He's just not anywhere near his ceiling right now. He probably could have used another year in college. Like I said, I guess his options just weren't great.
It's a questionable decision. From what I saw, I think one of his final options was Miami to go down there and be a quarterback. I think if he had gone down there, maybe he's able to get some more like buzz. But like I heard that like Ohio State was in on him. I'm like, why would you pass up a year over at Ohio State? You know, who's known for putting quarterbacks in the first round. It's
right.
Questionable.
To me, it sounds like they just moved on from him. If Miami was his only option, I think it would have been better than going to the NFL. Worst comes to worst, you're still a day 3 pick after one more year, but you know, it is what it is.
With as loaded as this QB draft is, he would
have had a better chance next year. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, put in another year of work and, you know, be a day 2 pick. Unless you
I agree.
show out. But
I agree. Next one, that's kind of one everybody kind of assumed he was leaving. He was one of the best edge rushers in college football this year, so it's not really much of a surprise.
He didn't even leave it must have been as soon as he got back to the locker room because it broke out
almost immediately,
literally right before kickoff of the Sugar Bowl. You know, that he was gone. He's like, nah, I ain't coming back. I'm just like, oh, okay. So
that's all the draft declarations we have for today. The one little bit of transfer portal news we have, DJU transferring to Florida State.
Back to the
Um,
ACC.
yeah, I kind of figured KJ Jefferson would go to Florida State, but DJU's not bad for Florida State. It'll help fill in that hole that Jordan Travis has left. And DJU did pretty good this year, so it's not like it's a huge downgrade. I don't know if he's as good as Jordan Travis,
No,
but he's definitely not. He's definitely an upgrade on what they have on the roster. So
I think this gives Brock Glenn another year to familiarize himself with the playbook, while also giving Florida State a quarterback to be able to go and let them compete right now. Do I think I I don't know. For all intents and purposes, DJU was a better quarterback this past year than KJ Jefferson. Do I think KJ Jefferson could have been amazing in that offense? Yes. Do I think DJU can? Yeah, why not? Let's see what he's got. Like Norvell is an actual offensive guru. So it's honestly it's a step up from Florida State and or from Oregon State. And I'd go so far to say it's a step up from Clemson. So let's go. Why not? Let's see what we got here. I think it will be entertaining to watch.
I agree.
Anyway, I guess we're going to go ahead and move on to the bowls, reviewing these bowl games that all happened, and there were some doozies, people. Really, there were. Starting off with the Gator Bowl, Clemson defeated Kentucky 38-35, and it is something we have spouted off from the very first episode. A soft shell zone will kill you. It will cost you a game, no matter what. Right? Kentucky has the lead, and all. Not to mention the fact that Clemson's offense all of a sudden came alive in the fourth quarter. Right? But Kentucky on the last drive, with less than like a minute left, if I remember correctly, Kentucky is only sending 3 to rush. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're going to get beat. I had flashbacks to the Notre Dame Ohio State game.
Right.
And you remember how ticked off I got about that.
Yep.
It infuriated me then. It infuriates me now. Send a pressure. Not a rush. Send 5 men. That is a pressure. 6 men is a blitz. 5 is a pressure. 4 and 5 are 4-man rush, 3-man rush, 5-man pressure, 6 and above a blitz. Just at least send 4. That's all I ask.
Yep.
Because that's going to let someone get a one-on-one and beat their man and get to the quarterback.
Right. I mean, like you said, we've seen it all year long, multiple times. People go into this soft shell defense and it never works. You give the quarterback all day to sit back there and get his receivers open. It doesn't matter how good of corners you have. If you're if your quarterback's sitting back there for 5-10 seconds, somebody's gonna get open. It's impossible to cover for 5 seconds. For everybody to cover for 5 seconds, somebody's getting open. So it is what it is.
It's stupid, but anyway. So basically, Kentucky deserved to lose this game in the end because they chose to go and do that. Moving on, the Sun Bowl, Notre Dame just mollywopped Oregon State 40-8. Not much to say about this one. Oregon State was completely and utterly outclassed in this one. Good chunk of their guys have either graduated, declared for the draft, or in DJU's case, transferred to Florida State. So they weren't on the same par as Notre Dame for this one.
Yeah,
sucked.
Notre Dame just came in there and mollywopped them, like you said.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, Oregon State's head coach is gone. He's up to Michigan State, if I remember correctly. So, moving on,
Yeah,
Liberty
Michigan
Bowl.
State.
Yeah, moving on to the Liberty Bowl. And speaking of this, I got to go ahead and say this because I forgot to say it earlier. I was right about Clemson beating Kentucky. You picked Kentucky. I picked Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Check. We were both right about Notre Dame. And then in this Liberty Bowl right here, we were both wrong. And
Yeah.
here's a hilarious thing. I think I said something about Memphis going in, and they typically go into these games that they're not supposed to technically be competitive in, and they win them. And we always act like it's a shock. It's not. So, just Memphis doing Memphis things. Helps that the Liberty
Yep.
Bowl's in Memphis, so they didn't have to travel that far.
Yep, I agree.
Anyway, moving on to the Cotton Bowl Classic. This was actually a pretty good game. Not your typical Ohio State style of game. You know, not a bunch of high scoring offense or anything like that. I was really excited going into this one to see Devin Brown play, and then he goes and gets injured. And they're down to their third string quarterback. So, uh, they still put up a bit of a fight till the fourth quarter. I mean, this one was like, I think it was like 6-3 at one point.
Yeah. It was a punt fest.
It
Like,
defensive struggle. Like Ohio State's
yeah.
defense came to play, which is sad because it really makes you realize the one year where they have this like actually outstanding defense is like 1 year removed from CJ Stroud, possibly their best quarterback
Yeah.
that they've had under Ryan Day. So it sucks, but it is what it is. Mizzou definitely earned this one. Deserved to win it, earned it, 100%. Eli Drinkowitz is he's legit. He's going to be a good coach for a long time. If I'm Mizzou, I'm looking at locking him up long term right now.
I agree. He's done wonders with that Mizzou team, and obviously this is a huge win for them. So, just keep riding that momentum. He's done a lot of good recruiting there, and
Mm-hmm.
I think you just keep it up, they'll be good. So
Yeah. Uh, Also, once again, another point for me. I'm pretty sure that was the one that put me completely and utterly on the course for victory, no matter what. So in our head-to-head picks, I think I've won. Not I think I know I've won for the season, but you know, humble
yeah,
brags. Uh, I feel terrible for saying that, but at the same time, that's what you get for picking the Big Ten. You
yeah.
know this.
I had false hope.
To be fair, like I wasn't necessarily like I thought Mizzou could pull out the win against OSU in the Cotton Bowl, and but I did not have near the confidence in them that I had in Ole Miss. Um, Speaking of which, Ole Miss beat Penn State. Once again, check for me. I need to stop saying so much, but this one was out of hand pretty quickly. Ole Miss took the lead and they never let it go. It Classic Lane Kiffin. Uh, just not much really to say about this one. Ole Miss had it, never let it go. Penn State started putting up some points late, but by then it was too late. They still lost by 13. They still lost by 2 scores. You know, I'm not sold on Penn State right now. They're always going to do just good enough. So it sucks, but that's how it is, man. Um, they're not what they used to be. Would question? Would you consider them a blue blood still?
No.
Oof. For them, you know, at this point, we were we were both riding. Well, I was riding high. You were kind of like, oh, I've gotten punched in the mouth twice, uh, in the head-to-head picks at least. But at this point, the SEC is kind of rolling ahead, dominating the Big Ten in their head-to-head matchups. All this stuff. It's great. It's awesome. And then I'll never forget that Auburn fan that we both know literally just yells across the room at work and it's like, Auburn's getting beat 21-0 by Maryland. And I was like, what the heck's happening? He's like, I don't know. I'm not watching. And frankly, I don't think I want to watch. I got a story about this one actually too. So I got some family over in Alabama. Um, majority of them are Crimson Tide fans, but the little small conglomerate I say small conglomerate. You got another side that's a bunch of Auburn fans. A good chunk of them have actually graduated from Auburn. But you got another little section of Auburn fans in the portion with the Crimson Tide fans because one of my uncle's daughters married an Auburn fan, so now her and her family are Auburn fans. And they decided they were going to go to the Music City Bowl because they're playing Maryland. Auburn's got to win that one. No, Auburn lost 31-13. Some interesting comments though after this one was, and this might lead to it. I don't know. Apparently, like Hugh Freeze is claiming that he wasn't really claiming much attention to the offense this season. That he was more focused on recruiting. So he hasn't had much to do with offense, which is astounding to say when you were a offensive-minded head coach. I was kind of shocked to actually hear that. Apparently, he was more focused on recruiting, which, I mean, he put together one of the best wide receiver classes I've ever seen, But still, I don't know. I'm not just gonna sit here and say, I'm not gonna sit here and say Auburn just had one job or anything like that. This first year with Hugh was always going to be this was a nothing year. No one expected much from Hugh this year. The fact that he kept them bowl eligible, good enough by me. You give him another year or two, Auburn's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is odd that somebody that's so well known as a offensive minded head coach just didn't get involved, but I get it. I mean, he basically just punted on this year and said we're not going to compete for the SEC or college football playoffs this year. Let's just recruit, get some good guys in, get some guys in that can execute my offensive philosophy, and then we'll start competing. So I get that, and obviously this is an embarrassing loss. I mean, Maryland didn't even have their starting quarterback, but in the grand scheme of things, it'll be all right for Auburn. They'll be better in a couple of years, so
Oh
I wouldn't
yeah.
be too worried about it.
Oh yeah. I've said it since his hiring. You're basically going to punt on this first year, and even then, he's still going to be dangerous this year because it's Hugh Freeze. But like we saw what he did over at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss does not have the booster backing that Auburn does. Doesn't have the prestige that Auburn does. The
Right.
lineage, anything of that nature. You know? So if we thought he was scary over at Ole Miss, he's going to be a lot scarier as Auburn's head coach. So,
I agree.
like, Auburn fans have literally nothing to worry about. Moving on. The Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl. Wyoming defeats Toledo 16-13. By the way, we were both wrong about Auburn winning, obviously. You got anything you want to say about the Arizona Bowl?
It was close.
I honestly, I'll be honest. When it comes to the Arizona Bowl right now, so with Barstool Sports going and being the main sponsor, bowl sponsor for it, I always look forward to Big Cat going and singing the national anthem, and I always look forward to Frank the Tank going out there to toss the coin, to do the coin flip. Congrats to him, by the way. He's lost over 200 pounds over like the last year. So, like, legit, like, congrats to him. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a
good
thing.
for him.
He was around like 500 pounds, people. He's just props. Over 500 pounds. Now he's like sub 400. So great. He's lost dead gum near 200 pounds, if not 200 yet. So that's always awesome to see. Moving on to the next game. A New Year's Six game. The Orange Bowl. I don't know what to say on this one.
I mean, unfortunately, it's what everybody expected because Florida State had so many opt-outs. The one thing I will say is this is the tales of how you deal with being left out of the college football playoffs. Arguably, both teams deserve to be there. Georgia, arguably being one of the best four teams, and Florida State being one of the four most deserving teams. Obviously, both get left out of the playoffs. Florida State had quite a lot of opt outs and transfers, and just basically they just gave up, and Georgia didn't and just got pissed off. So to me, it was just the two tales of how you deal with being left out of the playoffs, and Georgia just their guys said we're pissed off, we're going to go prove a point, and Florida State said we don't care anymore.
I would say this. Something that I've thought on and that I heard pointed out earlier was when you look at how the Florida State players reacted compared to how Mike Norvell reacted. Mike Norvell was saying everything right.
Mm-hmm.
We still view this game as a game we want to go out and win. We still like all this stuff, right? He's saying the right things that a coach needs to say in that situation. But the players were sending a completely and utterly different response. Would you say that's mainly because this roster was mainly a transfer portal roster this year?
It is. I've heard that point made a lot of. Obviously, Florida State was very much built around the transfer portal this year with like Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson. You know, a lot of their big playmakers were transfer portal guys, and the thought process is because they're transfer portal guys, they are me over team guys, and they're they're just looking out for themselves, and they're looking out for what's going to help them the most. And obviously, being left out of the playoffs, what's the point in playing in the Orange Bowl when I can go prepare for the NFL draft and prepare for the combine and, in some of those cases being at least a day 2 pick and an early day 2 pick. So they don't really have those deep ties to Florida State, whereas some of the guys from Georgia doesn't really go in the transfer portal a whole lot. They have recently for some receivers, but on this
Line
year's
here
team,
and
there was really, on this year's team, there's only like what, 2 wide receivers, Ra Thomas and Dominic Levitt
yeah.
are pretty much the only.
It's not like Mike Norvell's a bad coach. I trust he'll get this turned around. He's not a bad recruiter. He'll get his recruits in. And once he gets his recruits in, he's set. I do believe that. He was always a great coach over at Memphis. So always had a great offense over there, kind of set the standard for them offensively over there. So I think he'll get things turned around. It's kind of what happens though when you have a transfer portal heavy team, you know? So I think he proved a point this year though to the Florida State boosters and everything. I think he definitely earned their respect, and I think he'll be back. But talking about how another team went and responded in this game, Georgia came out pissed. This was an execution almost. This was handled like an execution by Georgia. It felt like I honestly do believe Kirby unintentionally performed an execution. Because if you look at the comments he made afterwards, he was very clear. We're sending a message. This is a message. Oh, holy crap, man! It was. I think he was still livid in the post game.
Yeah.
I just he had to have been ticked off about. I don't think he was. From my understanding, from what I've read, from what people have said, I don't think he was pissed off about the playoffs, about missing the play. I think he was pissed off about that, but I don't think that's what he was talking about when he was talking about that. It sounded more like when you read up on it, it's looking more and more like he was more ticked off about the transfer portal and all this. I think that's the message he was trying to send. Like, hey, we need to fix this now. Because look at what happened to Florida State.
Right. I agree. It's getting ridiculous in college football now, where you're having like basically these bowl games, and New Year's 6 bowl games. It's not even like it's some tiny, you know, barely make it into the bowl, bowl eligibility bowl game. These are used to be prestigious bowl games, and now, I mean, pretty much all of Florida State's team opted out. So like, something's got to be done. I don't have the answer. I don't know what the answer could be, but something needs to be done because it's getting ridiculous now. I mean, you're having guys opt out for big bowl games. I mean, like Marvin Harrison Jr. opted out of the Cotton Bowl. I mean, like I said, all of Florida State's team opted out of this. Jaden Daniels opted out of the, out of their bowl game against Wisconsin for LSU. I mean, like it's to the point now where if you're not in a playoff game, then if you're a day 1 pick, why are you playing?
Yeah.
Why risk getting hurt?
It's I've seen some people go and talk about changing the calendar, shortening the calendar, or limiting it, like changing the calendar around to where the first transfer portal opening happens after the bowl games, after the national championship. It happens after that.
Right.
So, and that could be something right there, because then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it forces some of these players who just enter the transfer portal immediately to go and be like, okay, well, I can't enter the transfer portal, and I have to, like, so I might as well play this game, put some extra tape on there for, when I get to the transfer portal.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. It's a struggle to say the least. It is what it is. Georgia beat Florida State bloody, and they're ticked off still. Actually, real quick question before we move on to the next bowl game. Where do you think Georgia's going to finish in the AP poll, in the final rankings in general?
Depending on how the national championship goes, second or third.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Uh, I think third, honestly.
I mean, yeah, if which we'll get into the semifinals later, but if the national championship is as close as the semifinals games were, then I think Georgia only moves up to 3. If Michigan or Washington throttles one or the other, then I think Georgia has a shot to move up to 2.
Yeah.
If it's bad.
We'll see. I know they're going to finish top 5, though.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, moving on to the ReliaQuest Bowl. LSU defeated Wisconsin 35-31. I jokingly, so I was writing down these scores and results like as I was getting them, because I was having to go into work late, or I was having to go into work late, or I was on lunch or something, right? And the
Right.
which I know earlier we said going we weren't going to go and bash Auburn at all. But like I laughed at the little thing I had under here, and it just says Auburn literally had one job. I shouldn't laugh, because like I said, they're going to be better. Auburn's going to be better next year. Um and people do need to stop underestimating Mike Loxley in Maryland. Like, they're no slouch. They're a Power 5 team, but
Right.
nonetheless, at this point, everyone was of the mindset at this point, and I mean everyone except Michigan fans and the utmost diehard Bama haters were of the mindset that, oh, Bama's fixing to steamroll Michigan. We'll get into that later, but needless to say, that obviously didn't happen. But no, the ReliaQuest Bowl was it was interesting because Wisconsin had a lead for a good chunk of this game. LSU was able to mount the comeback. It was a good game. It was. But just is what it is. SEC beats the Big Ten team. Go figure. The next game's look, they got 2 on us. Okay, I'll give them that. But that was
Right.
it. Because Citrus Bowl, I mean, even Tennessee, with a first-time starter, beat Iowa 35-0. I don't know what to say on this game, realistically, because that should have been a pretty tough matchup for Nico Iamaleava for his first start. That should have been a pretty tough matchup. You don't see that happen that often, and it kind of threw me for a loop that he did as well as he did. And even then, that's not like, I mean, he was 12 for 19 with 151 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. But I think he also had he had 3 touchdowns on the ground as well. He had 15 carries for 27 yards and 3
Dang.
touchdowns. So
Yeah.
I, I'll give them credit. Tennessee's coaching staff put together a game plan to go and get through to Iowa, get through Iowa's defense and score when they need to, because you don't see Iowa give up 35 points that often.
No.
But hopefully Iowa can get, for the love of God, a competent offensive coordinator after this one.
They're going to need it.
They really do at this point. Kirk Ferentz is like one of the most stubborn head coaches I have ever seen when it comes to sticking with his guys no matter what. He finally benched Deacon Hill in this game, just to try and get a flippin' change of pace in the fourth quarter. He put in Marco Linez, and the hilarious thing was this kid who is a true freshman comes in and on his first drive has the biggest play of the game for Iowa's offense, a 16-yard scramble.
That was their biggest play?
That was their longest play. The longest pass they had was a 14-yard reception. It was bad, man.
Iowa for you.
Iowa does not have an offense. That Marco Linez kid who came in for him at quarterback was also the leading rusher with 51 yards.
Sounds about right.
Guess how many total passing yards they had between the two quarterbacks.
82.
Nope. 60.
60. I was going to say 50, but I thought that was way too low.
Yeah,
I was not far off.
Deacon Hill went 7 of 18 for 56 yards and 2 interceptions. The Linez kid got 7 attempts at passing and made 2 completions for 4 yards.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no, it's god awful. It's Iowa to a T at this point, man. I don't know. I think I'm starting to get I'm so glad I was not born in Iowa. Because it wouldn't matter if my family were Hawkeyes or not. I would pick Iowa State in a heartbeat just to say we have an offense.
Yeah, that's awful.
It's terrible. Moving on to the next bowl game. Our final New Year's Six bowl game before the playoffs. God. Iowa's just god-awful offensively. I'm sorry. If they could just get competent OC.
They'd be all right. They don't have him this year.
No, they do not. Anyways, the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, Oregon versus Liberty. This went the way I thought it was. Oregon won. By the way, actually, props before we really get into this one. Props to you. I picked Iowa in this one just because I thought it was sketchy that a first-time starter was fixing to go against Iowa's defense. You picked Tennessee. You got that one right. I got it wrong. Props.
Nico is that dude, you know what I'm saying?
He might actually be. I mean, think about it. He's fixing to have an entire offseason as the guy. So he's only...
It scares me. As a Georgia fan, it scares me. Because he looked good.
They got to come back.
I mean, Iowa's got a really good defense, and he did very good.
They have a really good zone defense.
Well, yeah.
See, that's just it. I will take Georgia's defense. As good as Iowa's defense is, they only run zone. So I'll take Georgia's defense over their defense any day. Still.
I agree.
You can exploit the zone so much easier. So Plus, Tennessee has to go to Sanford this year, so not even a.
I don't think they beat Georgia. It just concerns me. I don't think they're going to blow them out. I could be entirely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you could be, you might be, who knows? Anyways, moving on to this one. Uh, it went to the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. It went the way we thought it would. Oregon just whooped tail. It was close there in the first quarter. In fact, Liberty actually had a lead at one point, but Oregon took over, and yeah, wasn't close afterwards. Not much really else.
No,
Not much else really else to say.
no. I mean, Bo Nix had a wonderful final game.
Yeah, yeah. How
Five
old is
touchdowns,
how old is he now? 36, 37?
40.
Uh,
He's retired. He's 60, retired with, drawn Social Security at this point. He's old,
yeah, probably,
but
probably.
yeah.
Well, I guess we gotta go ahead and move on to these. The semifinals. We both picked the same teams in these, and we were both wrong.
Way wrong, dude.
Well, here's the thing.
I won't say way wrong. It was close.
Both
It
games
could
were
have gone
close.
either
Both
way.
games were close. This was honestly, I would say, probably the best year of semifinals yet. Combined.
Total, yeah.
This year or
Last year,
Last year's is hard to beat.
the last 2 years have been really good.
I'll say it this way. Combined wise, with how well both these games were, I would say this was the best year of both semifinals being good. But last year was also pretty close for both of them, but I think they had the best individual semifinal game last year. Obviously, spoilers ahead. You can guess which one. Anyways, Michigan beat Bama. In overtime, and I'm still kind of shocked by it. They won the line of scrimmage. That is what won them this game overall. Special teams almost cost them. And a bad snap cost Bama this game.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, you can't have back-to-back bad snaps and just giving away yards. I mean, Bama shot themselves in the foot a lot in this game. They beat themselves a lot, but Michigan dominated the line of scrimmage. So I don't want people to think oh, Bama should have won this game. Bama dominated this game, and they just shot themselves in the foot. No, Michigan showed up.
Yeah, they did,
and Michigan won the line of scrimmage. They were bullying Alabama, at the line of scrimmage. It was just Bama still fought.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it was more Michigan shooting themselves in the foot more than anything that this game was as close as it was. A lot of special teams blunders that kept Alabama in this game. That was the end. The end almost ruined it for me. Because it was a great game, really, really super close, and just the decision making on the final play of the game irks me, because why you would run a quarterback draw when you had the screen off to the left that probably scores
it was
there.
an RPO.
It was just the wrong read.
Yeah,
and even if he did take the quarterback draw, the line was pulling to the right. He had a wide I could have drove a semi truck through that hole on the left side of the line into the end zone, and he chose to run right into the back of his center. It is just bad vision, bad read,
Bad snap, low snap.
bad snap. It
Like
was,
that low snap through.
and I think that has something to do with it. That bad snap, it kind of threw his timing off, and he was
Exactly.
just
That
grabbed it and instinct took over. He just ran.
so
He wasn't looking. He just ran.
so from what I could figure, I saw a lot of people pointing this out on Twitter. A lot of the first person to point this out was Brooks Austin. That was an RPO. That the draw was there for if they didn't go zero, if Michigan decided not to go zero, whereas the running back swing was there for if they did decide to go zero. And that swing was open because Michigan's guy saw it a bit late and like was well behind McClellan. So the whole thing was that low snap screwed everything up. And I'm not going to go and blame that on the center. It happens. You're not going to go and snap the ball perfect every time. That's the thing about football. You practice everything to make it perfect. It's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to go and get the snap right. Sucks, but that's life. Because if they snap that right, then Milrow's probably like, oh, they're just dogpiling the center. I can't do anything right there. And then he was probably told, if you've got an opening, go for it. If it looks like they are crashing down around you, throw it to the running back, and he will score. And he would have. Because like I said,
Yep.
you had one blocker on one defensive back, one blocker on another defensive back. And then the guy trailing the running back was doing that, trailing him. He realized it too late. He would have gotten to the end zone. That doesn't mean Alabama wins it, but that does mean Alabama forces a second overtime. So it is what it is. It sucks, but that's life. You know,
Yeah.
It was a heck of a game. Michigan proved a lot of people wrong, me and you included. So we were wrong. We apologize.
I mean,
There's still a bunch of cheaters, but you know, they won.
yeah. I mean, I know at least I did. I thought they were going to get rolled. I thought Bama was going to destroy them on the line of scrimmage. I didn't think it would be particularly close on the line of scrimmage. And Michigan definitely proved me wrong. They showed up for that game. They fought, and having a month to prepare for this game probably has something to do with that.
Probably.
And they can really hone in and figure out what they do on the defensive line and figure it out, and what they do on the offensive line and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But Michigan showed up and they played a hell of a game. And obviously they get to go to their first ever win in the college football playoffs.
Yeah. This is their first ever time getting to. This is their third time making it to the playoffs. First time winning.
So. First time making it to the Natty. And their first national championship appearance in 20 years, I think.
Over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 97 was the last national title they won. Yeah, 97.
Yeah,
right?
So
that was before the BCS started. Back when they were still doing shares and everything. So yeah, it is what it is. It sucks, but that's life. Oh well, you know, we were wrong about it. A lot of people were wrong about this game. I know I also tweeted out before this game kicked off using our shared podcast account. Did you see that, by the way?
I did.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's all right.
From here on out, I'm gonna start like signing them, but Des does frustrate me to no end. Anyway, moving on to the last playoff game, the Sugar Bowl. Washington almost gave this one up in the end. Almost. It came down to the last few plays, but Washington actually had control of this one for a bit. But all of a sudden, Texas just they kept they didn't give up. They kept coming back. They kept answering when they needed to, and it came down to a final play and a pass to AD Mitchell. Jesus, man, it was a game.
This one was a really good game. Again, special teams. Seems like that was a big factor in both of these games.
Mm-hmm.
Some big blunders on special teams for Washington.
Yeah,
Just seemed like they were trying to give this game away, but Texas was very streaky in this game. They'd come out there some drives and just march down the field, and you're like, oh crap, Texas is about to run away with this one. And then Washington would answer back quickly, and then Texas would come out for the next drive and then 3 and out. And you're like, well, wait a minute.
yeah.
Texas's defense just really didn't show up. I don't know if that's more that Texas's defense didn't show up. It was more their secondary didn't show up because Michael Penix was just
lights out,
having himself a day. He was just chucking them up there, and their receivers were just outrunning Texas to the ball.
I'll tell you this right now: if I'm an NFL scout, I don't care about his age. I don't care that he's 24. You know, because 6 years in college. If I'm an NFL scout, before the draft combine, before all that, if I'm looking at game film only this year,
Right.
I would go so far to say that after this season has been completed and done, I'd have Jaden Daniels number 1. Quarterback rankings heading into the draft. I would have Jaden Daniels 1, Michael Penix Jr. 2nd, then Caleb Williams, then Drake May. Because we've heard
I agree.
We've heard nonstop. Oh, Caleb Williams and Drake May, they're going to be 1 and 2. They're like the entire year, and then I look at how they both performed this year, and I'm like, nah. Like, don't get me wrong, Caleb Williams still a great quarterback. You know, God bless. No, God knows he was the only reason USC had any wins this year, because their defense wasn't worth crap. Exact opposite problem of Iowa. God awful defense.
Yeah.
Just, anyways, I don't want to get dragged back down that rabbit hole. Michael Penix went off. I legit would have him as one of, like, if he falls to the Falcons,
I'd be all right with it, yeah.
Because at this point, I don't think Jaden Daniels falls to the Falcons. Because Falcons are either picking 8th, 9th, or they somehow screw around and win the division and fall to, like, 16th or something.
Yeah. At that point, I'd take Penix. If you can't get Jaden Daniels, then I think Penix is a very great quarterback, too.
Because he showed...
I'd rather have Daniels because he's younger, obviously, but Penix is no slouch.
Yeah, and I think the difference at that point is experience and wisdom. You know?
Right.
And some people will say, oh, well, he's a system quarterback, and lest we not remember that he was originally committed to actually go to Tennessee. And then Jeremy Pruitt got the head coaching job and said, actually, I don't think you're going to be good in my system, so please decommit. And he decommitted, and I think he ended up at Indiana and then Washington.
Yep.
So, man, it sucks to be a Vol.
Yeah.
If you told me Michigan versus Washington at the start of the season was going to be the national championship matchup, I would have laughed.
No kidding.
One or the other, but not both. And I would have actually been shocked had you said Washington, but Go figure. Is what it is. Well, the line is opening up as Michigan minus 4.5. By the way, going back to the Rose Bowl real quick, the line opened up at Michigan minus 1.5, and it only kept going in Michigan's favor. Vegas knew.
Yeah.
Vegas always. You never bet against Vegas unless you are like dead sure, right? Lord knows if gambling was legal here in Georgia, I wouldn't have taken the +6 or the -60, but like if I could have, I probably would have taken -30 for Georgia.
Yeah.
Because Vegas was only given -23.5. But this line's opening up at Michigan -4.5. The over/under is 55.5. I'll be honest. Part of me is struggling to figure this one out because Vegas knows typically, but I also think that Michigan isn't going to have as much prep time for this one as they had for Bama. And I think that might have helped them in the long run. If Washington's O-line can hold up long enough, I think Washington can torch them through the air. What say you? Oh, jeez, lag.
Give me Washington.
Washington?
Yeah, obviously Michigan's defense is probably better than Texas's defense.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan gave Alabama's offensive line trouble all day long. But I feel like Washington's offensive line is much better than Alabama's offensive line, and Penix is a much better thrower than Milroe is.
Yeah.
So give me Washington.
Yeah. And that's another little thing I forgot to point out during the Rose Bowl. This was probably by far Nick Saban's best year of coaching ever to get this team to the playoffs.
No kidding.
Because I actually look at how they played in a good chunk of these games, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way anyone else gets this team into the playoffs. But then again, I don't know. You also have the Saban factor, in which the committee and all these other pundits give them so much leeway because, Nick Saban.
Right.
I mean, he kind of proved it this year because that O-line was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Anemic?
Anemic, yes, anemic. Dear Lord, you're going to run that into the ground, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Fair enough. We still need to get the shirts made. I agree with you, Washington, in the end. At the end of this one, Washington. So, is what it is. Moving on to our final topic and subject for the night. This is the last year of the 4-team playoffs. Next year, they move to a 12-team format. So, I decided what better way to celebrate it than to pick our top 5 semifinal games all time in the 4-team playoff era. Do you want me to start or do you want to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
You want me to start at 5 or 1?
Which one do you want to start at?
I'll start at 5 and work my way down.
Up.
Up, yeah. You know what I meant.
I know.
You knew what I meant. It's late.
Yes.
So number 5 on my list of top 5 is the Fiesta Bowl in 2022.
Ooh.
TCU defeating Michigan 51-45.
Okay.
TCU should have ran away with that game. Michigan fought. TCU pulls it out. Forget Michigan. Number 4 on my list is the 2019 Fiesta Bowl. Clemson defeating Ohio State 29-23 with the infamous Justin Fields interception.
Oh, okay.
You gotta love it.
I forgot that one. Actually, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I got a bit more recency.
Number 3. Yeah. Number 3, we're gonna throw it way back. The 2014 Sugar Bowl, Ohio State defeating Alabama 42-35.
Wow, 2014 Sugar Bowl.
That was a fantastic football game.
Yeah.
That was a good Ohio State team too. That was a good Bama team.
Yeah. No, I think it shocked everyone when Ohio State beat Bama that year.
That was Ezekiel Elliott, wasn't it? That was that year?
Yes. Wait.
He like went off in that game.
Cardale Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Third string quarterback comes in, beats Bama.
That feels like forever ago, dude.
You would think they would have looked back at that and said, maybe we should give Florida State a chance because maybe that could happen. They didn't.
Nah, different committee. Number 2 on my list is the 2018 Rose Bowl. Georgia defeating Oklahoma 54-48 in overtime. It holds a very special place in my heart. Obviously being the first playoff game that Georgia's played in ever, and the sadness I felt at halftime.
That most of us felt it.
As they were being murdered by Oklahoma, and then came back and pulled off the most majestic overtime win. I
just remember the Titanic memes
at 1:00 in the morning. Oh, beautiful!
The Celine or whoever it was.
So many good memories.
My heart will go on as Sony's trotting in the end zone. I'm just like, oh man, it was hilarious.
I remember watching that game and going, they blocked the field goal. I went, all right, all we have to do is kick a field goal here and we go to the national championship. Just play it safe. Don't throw the ball. Just run it 3 times. If you get a touchdown, great. If you don't, whatever. You have one of the best kickers in college football.
Great.
Just play it safe. And then the first play,
wild dog. Sony just
wild. Oh,
just like, oh my god.
Oh,
it was
beautiful. I'm tearing up.
Yeah, the crazy thing about that game is that was what, a year or 2 before you and me actually met?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't meet till like towards the end of 2019.
It was into 2019 going into 2020.
Yeah, and so that happened at the start of literally the start of 2018.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 2 years before we met.
That was...
Anyways.
A beautiful game.
Moving on to number 1.
The radio call for Sony Michel running it into the end zone. I have it saved as a ringtone on my phone. I don't use it.
Obviously.
But I have it as a ringtone on my phone.
Just so you can go back and reminisce.
Oh, I can relive it, yeah. Number 1 on my top 5 list is the 2022 Peach Bowl. Georgia defeating Ohio State 42-41. The greatest semifinal ever. Has to be. It was magical. Georgia down by 14 twice. Comebacks, takes the lead, and the shank on the field goal as the clock hits midnight.
For the new year and everything.
Oh, oh, it's the stuff that legends are made
It,
of. It is a storybook fairy tale ending to a football game. It was beautiful. It was a super fun game to watch. Super stressful as a Georgia fan.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
A lot of good
forget where I was
memories.
at.
Me
I was
either.
at a
That
bar up in
was
Chickamauga.
oh goodness. That
Me and
was
my cousin were just like, yeah, just it was great. It was great. Um,
he was a really good kicker too. I can't believe he missed that field
yeah,
goal. Oh,
I think he stepped too close to it if I remember correctly. Even if he'd kicked it straight though, it looked like Dare Smith had gotten up high enough to go and
yeah.
block it. Anyways, so I guess that leads me to my top 5.
Yep.
Me and you agree on 3 of these, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm also in cahoots with you. 2022 Fiesta Bowl is my number 5 pick. It was a great game. It was a. I'm blanking all of a sudden. Yep, no, now I remember. Do I remember? Yeah, no, TCU, Michigan. I don't know why. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was in panic right there. Yeah, no, just the fact that
Good Lord.
TCU just overwhelmingly and out of nowhere jumps up into such a huge lead. It shocked the world in a sense. And then Michigan, all of a sudden, they're like, nah, screw this. We're not done. We're going to find a way to come back and beat you. And they kept getting back and back and back and closer and closer and closer. And they fell just short. It was a really great game. Granted, obviously, everyone hates what happens next, you know, to TCU
Yeah.
is what it is at the end of the day. Um, but I will say that Fiesta Bowl actually kind of leads into my next pick because I don't care if it's recency bias or whatever. That Rose Bowl was a great game. That Rose Bowl last night was amazing. Um, and say what you want about the cheating scandals. Say what you want about whether or not Bama deserved or earned their way into this. I don't care. That was a great game. Um, Now, granted, obviously, certain times they messed up and were shooting themselves in the foot, but at the end of the day, Michigan got a sense of redemption in their own way. They finally get past their demons that have stopped them the last 2 years. The semifinal game, now they're getting the chance to play for the first national title since 1997. It's romantic in a sense. Now granted, as a unbiased outsider and bystander, if Michigan goes on to win the national title and then the NCAA comes down out of nowhere and is like, nah, y'all are vacating it because of this whole cheating scandal, hilarious. Hilarious.
I would be furious because why couldn't they have not done that? Like, I don't know, before the playoffs?
Who knows? The NCAA is the slowest thing on the earth.
Yeah.
Anyways, keeping with this year's semifinals games, the 2023 Sugar Bowl is my third pick. Washington beating Texas. Texas, once again, almost like in the same sense of the 2022 Fiesta Bowl, them mounting the almost comeback, it coming down to one last ditch pass to AD Mitchell, who has notably been known for these clutch catches. And this pass is off to the outside, just too much for him to go and get and bring in, allows him to go and get to a perfect angle for the Washington defensive back to jump up, swat the ball out of his hand as time expires and costs them the chance to go to the national championship. It was. I hate it for AD. I hate it for him. Heck, I even hate it for years a bit, but that's how it goes sometimes. It was a great game. It was a great matchup, and Washington found a way to win. Especially when you take in proximity to the Sugar Bowl. I'd, I'd be shocked if Washington had more fans than Texas. Heck, if they even had a third of the fans there. Moving on, at this point, y'all can already tell the last two that me and Zach here agree on. 2018 Rose Bowl, number 2. 2022 Peach Bowl, number 1. And it's, some people will say we put them there because we are, like, they'll say we put them there because we're homers. We're not homers on this. I tried not to be, but I legitimately, I look at those two games and I try to look at them as unbiased as possible. And it was just like, those games were better than the other ones. It was outstanding in a sense. Well, not outstanding. That's the wrong word. They were just, they were, those were games that football was supposed to be about, right? The magical nature of this game, that is so weird because anyone can line up on any given day and beat someone they're not supposed to. I don't know how many people picked Oklahoma to beat Georgia, but that Rose Bowl defined this era that Kirby Smart has brought upon Georgia and the SEC. That's what made everything go together. That was the first building block. 2022. Well, I'll just be honest. I just remember there's not much I remember about that night. Like I said, bar, but the one, I really shouldn't say that. I got family that watches this. Look, not one of my finer moments, but the one, and this is just me being a bit of a fan for a moment, but I remember being at the Buc-ee's at about 1 a.m, right? Hour after the game. So took us about that long to get back from Chickamauga. And then from there, probably shorter than that, actually. We stayed a bit to watch some of the awards and stuff. Paid our tabs and left. But I know it takes about an hour to get from Atlanta up to the Buc-ee's up in Calhoun, Adairsville, wherever you want to call it. We walked in there, and there were Georgia fans, and there were Ohio State fans. And buddy, when I tell you there were two completely styles of atmosphere in that building. Georgia fans just slowly walking around, dazed, just like, oh my gosh, this might be the best day of my life. And then you had the Ohio State fans who were head down, I'm going to the bathroom, and then I'm getting right out of here because I want to be out of Georgia as quick as possible at this point. It was honestly just, it was amazing to watch that aftermath. So, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry. That typically always.
No, you're good. All right. Well, it brings us to the end of another episode of the Any Given Day podcast. You got any closing thoughts?
Dadgum, I should have put UCF beating Auburn as one of my top 5. No, I'm messing.
Jesus.
Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the bell once you subscribe so you can be notified for when we do drop these. The more not subscriptions, the more subscribers we get on this, the more we can expand, get this out there. Really helps us, guys. Other than that, we'll see you on the next play.
Yep.